Hi friends! Today we're going to talk about something very special that I have been planning for a few weeks now. You know, for this to be fun, we're going to welcome my guest.
Hello. How's everybody doing today?
So, you may
I love that I have to turn like Batman. I can't just turn and look at you.
This is gonna be a shit show of a video, okay? I'm gonna have to do a lot of bleeping, a lot of whatever magic to make this okay for YouTube. But I want to tell you guys what we did. A friend of mine from work told me about this stupid smut book called Corn Daddy. This is what it looks like.
I am Corn Daddy for the purposes of this video. No, I'm not. I'm not at all, actually. No. I recount everything I said.
Anyways, we read the book. I had it on my phone. My husband had it on my Kindle, and we read it. It's less than 100 pages, so we're going to talk about it now. We read it and then immediately came to record this video so that our thoughts were fresh and all the fun stuff could happen on camera. So what are your initial thoughts when I first told you we were going to do this?
I mean, I had an idea of what it would be. I've never really read like a smut story before, so this was a nice jump into that pool, I guess. Women are freaks. You guys are insane. Like, what is happening? Do they need to be stopped? Women need to be stopped, alright? Corn. Butter. Cream. Oh, I didn't even know the name of the book. Chelsea was just like, here, read this. And handed me a Kindle, and it wasn't on the title page, so I didn't even know the name of the book was Corn Daddy till right now. Okay, I wanted to talk about some of the trigger warnings because it made me laugh.
We need you guys to be aware of these trigger warnings if you do decide to pick up this book. It's on Kindle Unlimited right now, by the way.
So she goes on to talk about, like, these are the trigger warnings for my book, and I just wanted to go over what they are. Being bound and restrained during a sexual encounter, being held captive, being in smallish spaces underground, binding and restraints in kidnapping situation, consumption of alcohol. I don't remember that, but okay. Dominant and submissive roles during a DDLG dynamic. I don't even know what that means. I feel like that should be explained better.
DDLG. Maybe we're just not versed enough in smut. Comment
below what's DDLG. Edging and orgasm denial, excessive sexual fluids, foot licking, hair pulling, kidnapping and drugging, a large knife used in foreplay, masturbation. Masturbation with inanimate object or inanimate produce vegetables, outdoor sexual encounters, penetration by a humanoid being, penetration with fingers, performing oral sex with a humanoid being, questionable consent, receiving oral sex from a humanoid being, sexual entanglement with an abductor, spanking, trespassing, very light choking, and a protagonist who curses like a sailor. Like, there's some of these that make me laugh because I just want to know the person out there who's like fine with all of that, but then they're just like curse words in my smut book. But yeah, that's a lot of. I feel like trigger warnings are necessary, but I feel like some of those were not trigger warnings. I don't remember alcohol at all. I don't either. I feel like that might be an edit that got edited out before it went to. There's a few moments in the book where they talk about stuff that happened in the past.
Wine. He drank wine.
He did drink wine. You're right. They did drink wine. Very minuscule part of it. Once again, it's just like,
was that
wine
necessary?
In my smut book? They
didn't even get drunk. They just had a couple.
No, he had a delicate sip. Delicate sip. He is a gentleman. He is a gentle corn daddy.
No, he's
not going to get sloshy for his queen.
Did you write down any quotes from this book?
I wrote down a ton of quotes. I didn't write down all of the of them because there's so many and I don't want to ruin it if anyone wants to read it. But I did write down a few of my favorites.
Okay, let me
you want to go back and forth?
Yeah, I've got like 4 or 5 that I want to read. The first one, and it's funny, I'm sure you noticed it too on Kindle. you can see where people have highlighted a section, so it's like underlined. So a lot of people highlighted that quote, and these are all highlighted. It says, and I quote, she gasped and felt her inhibitions begin to disappear as she approached her glorious corngasm.
Yes, I remember that. That was a good chuckle. One of mine I wrote was a mystical yellow corn.
Okay, before we go any further, I need to explain the plot, okay? I haven't even explained the plot to you people. So the plot of this book, it's like less than 100 pages, okay? So there's not much plot. Girl is upset because her boyfriend is crappy. She goes to this corn maze fall festival thing. She gets lost in the corn maze. She runs into this guy who's a corn man. They get close to doing it. They do a lot of stuff. He says, you gotta be my queen. And she says, nuh-uh. And then he dumps her out and she comes back to him because she wants his corn. So that's essentially the story here.
As you do.
Yeah.
I wrote in my notes, like, I think it would be better. I think it would be funnier if, because the whole plot of the book is that she gets with boys, right?
Yeah.
And they like, they're like serviceable. Like they sometimes they get her off.
Sometimes get the job done.
But overall, they're crappy boyfriends, and they, you know, whatever. And then she finds Corn Man, and Corn Man treats her right. Corn Daddy treats her right. So I think it would be really funny if she agreed to be his queen, and then he like he sucked. He gets like 2 pumps in and just sprays butter everywhere.
He butter, by the way.
Yeah.
I knew that before I read it because my friend told me. I'm going to read another quote for you. We'll just disperse these in throughout our review.
Okay.
Now, Liz was running on spite, and she was determined to have this orgasm. He owed her this orgasm. She was entitled to legal compensation.
That was a good one. That was a good one. That was while she was rubbing the cob, right? Like
she finished doing that at her house, and then she goes to the cornfield. She deserved to.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
I thought it was weird when she was at the farmer's market trying to find the perfect corn, cob of corn, and she was like, "How do people show their faces here?" I'm like, "You the only freak.
Vegetables.
You the only freak here. This is a bunch of geriatric people getting their food for the week." Like,
yeah, normal people eat their fruits and vegetables.
Like, what do you mean? You want one of mine?
Yeah.
Shuck me.
That was the funniest ever. How did she write that? How did they write this?
Oh.
Shuck me.
Their hands trembling, I'm sure. You know that gif where the guy's writing and it's just like the page just lights on fire? That was Mrs. Woodcock's process.
Yeah.
That's not her name. There's no way that's her name.
Yeah.
It has to be.
It's a pen name.
It has to be a pen name.
But I want to say something good about this book because it was very fun to read. I had a good time. Did you have fun?
Yeah, it was fun. It was, like I said, I'd never read anything. It was bridging on taking too much of my time to read the same joke over and over. But overall, I think its length was fine. I think if it was any longer, I think it wouldn't have been worth it.
I think it's like 75 pages or something. So if you've got like an hour or two to kill and you want to have a good laugh, or if you're freaky and want to read something freaky, then go ahead, read it.
So when I heard about this book, I imagined it was just like one of the corn stalks in the field. And he's just like, "Hey baby, like come over here." And that's one of the things I was kind of disappointed was it's not a corn stalk, right? Because that's kind of what I assumed, and the cover of the book kind of looks that way.
It was vague, yeah.
It's not really. It's just like a guy who's got like corn attributes. He's like a big muscly dude.
She described him in the before as like the Jolly Green Giant guy, but corn and like hot.
Yeah, it's very strange. I have a hard time picturing him.
Me too.
I always see like a muscular, like old Greg or something. You know?
He kept describing his silk leaves and stuff, and I
Yeah.
was like, is he mostly leaves? Like, maybe there's not much actual corn.
Well, that's what
sticking out.
I imagine he had like leaves. She said he had leaves on his hands and leaves like around his. I imagine like a loinclothy type of deal made
Yeah.
of corn stalks of leaves.
Yeah.
And then his hair being like that, and you can barely see his face.
Yeah.
And that's just, and then just green and muscular.
Yeah. Okay. I'm gonna read you another quote. Oh, I had shook me too.
Nice. It's golden.
Yes. She pulled back, sucking with more pressure until she was focused entirely on his ultra-sensitive ribbed for her pleasure tip. Then she took her mouth away. I want you to baste me with your ripe, she panted.
Nice. I mean, I'm excited.
Yeah.
I'm ready to shuck.
Oh yeah, my feels like corn.
Oh, shucks!
Oh, shucks.
The whole time we were reading this, by the way, you could hear us both giggling. Like, we were just cracking up randomly, because I read a little bit faster than him, so I was just laughing.
And then I would get to it later. Oh my gosh. I'm going to read a quote, because this is like, this line I imagine is like kryptonite for a gay man.
Oh.
Wearing my like an oxygen mask. That is a interesting description.
I thought you were going to mention the worms.
Oh, I have that in here,
Okay.
but I didn't know if I was going to talk about it or not, because that's just, it's kind of just a,
It was like
kind of a gross.
we were having a fun, jolly, weird, sexy time, and then all of a sudden she mentions vaginal worms.
Like, it doesn't happen, but she's like, I hope this doesn't happen, and it's like, ew, why would you say that? It's gross.
Yeah.
You could have just left that on the
Kinda
drawing
just
board.
ruined the vibe.
Kept that in the drafts.
If you were feeling a little something, you wouldn't be after that.
I have some, like, complaints. You know how I am. I like to tear things
Yeah,
apart.
that's what we're here for.
She mentions, okay, at the very beginning of the book, she's going to this corn maze, and she's waiting for her boyfriend. Her boyfriend doesn't show up. She gets upset, and she does the corn maze herself. At a certain point, like, it talks about how she was planning on getting lucky tonight. She's upset her boyfriend's not there, so she's just going to go home. She's just going to do it herself. She describes this purple vibrator she's going to use and everything. And then talks about how anxious she is and how she just wants to get home and do this, da-da-da. And then it also says that there's hints. So in this corn maze, when you get to a dead end, there's a scarecrow, and it just says, lost. And then underneath it is like hints to help you get out of the corn maze, right? To help you through. And she refuses to use the hints to the point to where like it becomes like dangerous. To the point to where she's like not like, she's like, oh God, am I going to get out of here tonight? You know? But she never uses the hints. Like they're right there. Like
I have a feeling that those were hints as to her brattiness. Like it's
Maybe.
showing that she's a brat, but I agree with you. It's stupid.
I'm just like, if it's like, oh God, I haven't eaten in 12 hours, I need to get out of here. It's like turning nighttime. I would use the hints. Like
Yeah.
what? That's what they're there for. That was so weird to me.
Yeah.
Climbing corn, stupid. That's a stupid thing to do. What do you mean? So she gets lost and she's like, I'm gonna climb the corn. To
You
see.
can't climb corn.
You can't climb corn. Like, what does that mean?
Are you an
ever
ant?
But that's what makes Corn Daddy upset, is that she tries to climb the corn and she hurts the corn.
Yeah.
And that's what makes him mad at her, right? So he says, like, I want to make you the corn queen, and I want to breed you so that we can have a good crop
For next year.
next year. Which brings up a ton of questions, right? Like, how is the farmer involved in all this? Like, does that mean that there's a corn queen every year? Or do they reuse the queen and he just, like, the last one had a, like, where's the last corn queen, right? Like,
Now this is a horror movie.
yeah, exactly. Like, what does that mean? But he's like, I'm gonna breed you so that we can have a good crop. So she's going to give birth to the crop next year, I guess, is what he's saying. And then there's some allusion at the end of the book that kind of alludes to that as well, saying that there's like tiny cornlings in her belly
Yeah,
or whatever.
baby corn.
So it's just like, so I guess she breeds the crops. And then she says, and then she goes, well, I've done weirder stuff. And I'm like,
Really?
what? Weirder than being a corn queen?
Getting
And getting bred by a
plowed
corn
by
man?
a corn boy.
What the hell? This is the horniest woman on the planet.
Yeah.
Like, literally, she's like, oh my God, he's gonna kill me. I'm tied up and I'm scared and this is a scary room and oh da 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 da. And then he's like, I mean, you want to f***? And she's like, yeah. She's like, what do you mean? Of course.
Okay, I'm gonna read you the last sentence of the book. Thank you, Daddy. Liz's corn had been successfully creamed.
I almost wrote that one. I almost wrote that one down.
It was.
But I was. That's a true.
This book was ripe for corn puns.
It was filled with corn puns.
It was so
They
good.
were popping. Another thing I had was that it was weird that she couldn't find him, right? Because he let her go. So at the first time she goes to the corn maze, this is the whole book. She goes to the corn maze, he kidnaps her, he does stuff to her, but not to completion, and then he lets her go because she says she wants to go. So he lets her go, and then she tries to get over him by using a corn cob she bought at a farmer's market, but it wasn't good enough, so she goes back to the corn maze and becomes the corn queen. That's the whole book. When she goes back to the corn maze, she can't find him, which I thought was really weird because they never describe him as like putting a bag over her head and like dropping her off somewhere or anything. It's just like, he just kind of lets her go.
Yeah, but how he found her was also a mystery. Like he is the field of corn. So
yeah, but they use a trap door.
No, she assumed that he must have a trap door.
Then how did she get out the first time?
It doesn't say.
That's what I'm saying. Like, I assumed that it was like he just let her out, and if he just let her out and she walked to her car, she would have some sort of idea of how to get back to him.
I agree with you, but I think it was more of like understood that she was kind of not allowed to see where she was going, so she just kind of appeared underground, under the field, and then somehow he let her go. Never describes how. She goes back to the field to find him, but she doesn't know where to look. She just knows where she found him initially. And so she starts trying to edge or seduce the cornfield, as it were. And then she just suddenly, he appears.
Corn magic. It's corn magic.
Corn magic.
That's what does it. The only other thing I have is third act of the book when she goes back to him and she finally sees his corn She describes it as having like these tendrils, these strings.
Oh, like the strings.
Yeah, like these strings, right? They come out the tip of it. And then he's like, ooh, be careful, those are my nerve endings. I'm like, that is insane. That is an insane thing to put in your book.
Yeah.
Like, nerve endings?
And she's
like biting on them and stuff. And I'm like, ah! Like, what? That's crazy. That is like, not like, oh, that's crazy. No, that is crazy.
That would hurt a lot.
Yeah, I had to imagine so. I've never had an exposed nerve, but I've heard that they are very, very painful. So I'm not sure how that would feel. I don't think it would feel good.
Yeah, that was an experience, wasn't it, babe?
And the mud.
Oh, the
and
toes.
The mud butter.
The foot licking.
Yeah, the mud butter stuff. That was
disgusting. I'm all for having your kinks, and I don't kink shame, but licking mud and butter off of your foot.
corn cob butter.
It's so gross.
Yeah, it's pretty gross. They describe it as like the butter mixing with mud and then he licks it off.
She likes it now.
Oh gosh.
I think the writing was good. I think the length of the book was good. I don't think it should have been a minute longer. I think that the smut was, I don't read smut much because it's trash to me. Personally, I don't enjoy it. But it was funny. The funniest book I've ever read, probably. Not including manga, of course. I give it 4 stars.
4 out of 5?
Well, I'll give it 3.
3 out of 5?
3 because the writing and the funny. But yeah, 3 out of 5. What do you give it?
I give it 6 Orville Redenbachers beaten off in a dirty shed out of 10.
Oh, God. You're disgusting.
What? That's the feeling that this book gives me.
But yeah, that was an interesting ordeal, and if you liked this video concept, it was just really, really fun to come up with and for us to do together. I enjoyed it. Did you?
Yeah, it was fun. It was fun.
I think if you guys liked this, let me know, and I will put the link for this book in the description if you want to check it out yourself. I'm sure it's pretty cheap because it is so short, but if not, you can get Kindle Unlimited and read to your heart's content. But thank you guys for watching. Remember to pop that like button
Nice.
and cream that subscribe button. I don't know. I tried.
Be sure to butter us up by liking and subscribing. All right, everybody. Stay poppin'. The corn costume stays on during sex.